Quad cores, they're great. I'll catch you in the next video. Oh, you want more information? Alright, then let's go. We've finally hit the many-core era, with most programs being developed in 2019 having support for at least 6 or more threads. However, with some of the most popular chips on the market still sporting the classic quad-core configuration, it starts to beg the question: what exactly is quote-unquote required on the CPU side? Well, it's actually not as much as you think, and if this footage of Far Cry 5 at 1440p 60fps running on a Pentium doesn't surprise you, well then we've got plenty more information to share on the topic that you might find interesting. Alright, well to start this discussion off, CPU hardware doesn't necessarily reflect performance in software. Basically, increasing cores doesn't mean you're going to see an equivalent percentage bump in performance. Just to visualize this, our i5-9600K, a 6-core 6-thread chip, only scored around 34% higher than our quad-core i3-8350K in Cinebench R15, despite the fact that it's packing 50% more cores. While yeah, a 34% bump in performance sure is nice, if you were to see perfect scaling, our i5 should have scored somewhere in the 1200s. Also at this time, it's worth bringing up multithreading, as there are quite a few misconceptions surrounding how it can improve performance. Taking a look at the Pentium G5400, it's a dual-core chip with 4 threads, basically pushing data through it as if it were a quad-core chip. But when comparing its performance to a true 4-core offering, in this case the i3-8100, it sits 44% behind the real thing, which basically confirms that hyperthreading isn't equivalent to just doubling the core count. It's still a worthwhile implementation though, as if done properly, such as what's found in the Ryzen 7 line, it can bring a phenomenal bump to processing times, but it's not as good as just having those extra cores. Now moving along into benchmarking territory, the amount of CPU power needed to run a game at adequate speeds is generally pretty case dependent. Some engines such as the Dunia engine absolutely thrive when it comes to multi-threaded processing, but others, in the case of older last-gen focused titles, have a tendency to push all the processing tasks onto cores 1 and 2, which leaves a nice chunk of your processing capabilities sitting idle in intensive scenes. However, with a lot of current engines, thread count is actually ultimately what matters when determining how software will perform. If we take a look at Far Cry 4 and 5, the games simply won't start unless there are 4 or more processing threads available, meaning that somewhat modern Pentiums, older i3s, and more recent Athlon chips are really the lowest you can go if you're looking to get into some relatively current titles. I mean, if you're looking for a console level experience, then the Athlon 200GE and the Pentium G5400 are perfect for getting a solid 30 FPS in almost all titles. I mean, look at this. We've got Far Cry 5 running at 4K and at a locked 30 FPS on a Pentium. Lower the resolution and drop a few settings, and you can hit a 16.6 millisecond render budget pretty consistently on a CPU that's designed for basic desktop workloads. Now, if you want some more stability, or you want to try and target that buttery smooth 60 FPS, then quad-core chips are the way to go, and the Ryzen 3 and Core i3 lines are excellent value processors that can give you some incredible results if you pair them with the right graphics card. Now, looking at the Ryzen 5 and Core i5 lines, they both offer mainstream hexa-core processors at prices that are relatively reasonable. The Core i5-9400F, the Ryzen 5 2600, and the Ryzen 5 1600 are all excellent CPUs for gamers looking to get the most value from their system. But for content creators, yeah, I'd actually stick to Intel non-F-series chips and AMD Ryzen 7. The lack of integrated graphics on Intel's side with the F-series really hurts video encoding, while the 16 threads on the Ryzen 7 really help with smoothing out timeline performance. But beyond 6 cores for gaming, it's actually kind of unnecessary if you're targeting 60 FPS. For 120 or 144Hz displays, then that's territory where a Core i7, Core i9, Ryzen 7, or the upcoming Ryzen 9 chips really get a chance to flex their muscles. I mean, just look here at our i5-9600K, 1080p 60 FPS, and CPU usage is hanging at around 60%, which leaves some headroom for pushing higher frame rates. Realistically, unless you're rocking an RTX 2080 Ti and you're looking to game at 4K 60 FPS or beyond, then that's where a 12-thread i7 or a 24-thread Ryzen 9 is really what's needed to give you exactly what you want. Now, we've been talking for a little bit, but we really haven't given a conclusive answer yet. So let's do that. If you're looking for console-esque gameplay, then a dual-core hyper-threaded Pentium or i3 is more than sufficient to give you a satisfactory experience. For 60 FPS at decent settings, then quad-core chips are the way to go, but if you want to rock a solid 60 along with max settings, then hexa-core chips will give you what you're looking for, and anything more than that is really just either headroom for higher refresh rates or allows for extremely intensive workloads. At the end of the day, you don't really need as much juice from your CPU as you'd think. While yeah, you shouldn't just buy the cheapest option available, you also don't need a Threadripper chip to max out Battlefield 5 at 60 FPS. But that's really all we have to say on the matter. It's really a complicated answer to a question that's pretty case dependent, but let us know what you think. If you enjoyed this video and want some special private access to the channel, then please consider joining our Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can get an inside look into the behind the scenes work that goes into these videos, and you can also work with me directly to decide video topics and help write scripts. If you're at all interested in supporting us, the link to our Patreon is in the description. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll be notified about all our future uploads. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.